demo, I'm going to walk you through how to create a composite creature. So to get started, go to File, New, and make sure that your resolution is set to 72, and we want to be in inches. So our inches ideally will be 17 inches wide by 11 inches tall, so that way we have kind of a longer average poster format. We also want to make sure our color mode is set to RGB. Mine, I just noticed, is not. It's currently set to grayscale, so I'm going to change that by going to Image and Mode. Next thing I want to do is open up the files that I want to work with. You're going to follow the same process when you're going through your own composite collage. So I'm going to grab my 3 files. I have a texture file, the chameleon file, and then I have my base or primary image. The next thing I want to do is I want to copy these files into my new document. So to do that, I select all by holding down Control A, and then I'm going to copy and paste that image into my final document. As you can see here, I'm resizing it to better fit the space. So I'm slowly shrinking it down and moving it up just so I can see it. And I'm going to resize it a little bit better to make sure it really fills my space well. This is my texture that I want to overlay on top of my image. I'm going to change the name of this layer to texture just to help identify it. Next, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to repeat the process with both the chameleon and the primary image with the cat and the green background. So at this point, I want to make sure that my chameleon is on top. I'm going to change the layer opacity to 65%, as you can see here. That way I can move and adjust the chameleon to really cover up just really the head of the cat. So I want to align that and make sure I'm covering up as much of the cat as possible. Then I'm going to reset my opacity back at 100%. Alright, so the next step is to use the quick selection tool. You can find the quick selection tool in your toolbar. It should be near the top, and when you click on it, you're going to kind of create marching ants around the area of your selection. So you can see I'm really trying to target the head and neck area. If you grab a little bit extra, that is okay. You can refine your selection as part of our next step. Alright, so your next step is to go up towards the top and make sure you select, and mask. It is an icon. The next thing that you want to do is you're going to go over to the View menu over in your Properties onto the right, and make sure that you click on Overlay. This will make it really clear what is being hidden. So what's happening here is it's called a mask. A mask is essentially like using tape or a masking tape to kind of block out areas that are going to be hidden, but you can always restore those parts of the image. So that's one of the really fun things about masking. So wherever you see the red, it's kind of like an eraser, except it's not permanently gone. It's just kind of hidden. So I want to make sure I'm getting rid of as much of the background as possible. To make these adjustments, I'm using the brush tool that is selected on the left-hand side, and I'm refining my selection. So I'm changing my brush size to make sure I can get really nice and close to the edge, and I'm refining that selection. So that's what you really want to do, is refine your selection as much as possible. And you can always edit this when we kind of finish our selection. So I'm trying to grab as much as possible what I might want to incorporate in my piece, and then getting some of those fine details as well. So the next step is to make your final adjustments. So you're welcome to play with some of the properties with the sliders and see if those make any fine-tuning adjustments that you like. It is not required for this, but it sometimes can help get your edges just a little bit smoother and cleaner. So the last thing that you want to do is make sure that you check your output settings. You want to change your output settings so that way it comes in a new layer with a layer mask. So make sure that you select new layer with layer mask as your output selection. So you'll notice that I have my original image, and then I have my edited one that I am renaming here. You'll notice that there's a little box that is kind of a preview of your mask. So that is your mask selection. Make sure, like, as you're working on your selection, that you're working in that little black and white box is selected and not your original image. So right now I'm just kind of moving the head in place. I clicked on that preview box, and now I'm going to use my brush tool. So what is going to happen is I'm going to brush to adjust and make the transition between the chameleon and the cat a little bit more smooth. Because right now it literally looks like I just cut and pasted the chameleon on top of the cat's head, and there's no sort of smooth transition between the two. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm also just right now tweaking my selection a little bit by rotating with the transform tool. So you can hit Control T or go to Edit Free Transform. All right, so that looks really good. Covers the area and it looks a little bit more natural and smooth. So let me go back to my brush tool. I'm going to change the opacity down to about 15%. What this does is it allows me to kind of gently sort of make the transition a little bit smoother by only erasing parts of it or only restoring just a little bit. So that way there's a layer of transparency. So every time that you click means that your brush is being used. So I'm just kind of gently clicking through this area. Alright, so the next step is to work on adding my texture or applying that texture on top of my image. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that layer, bring it up to the top. And what I want to do is I want to change In the layer adjustments, it's a drop-down menu, and I want to select color burn. There's a lot of things that you can kind of play with, but that is one that will kind of give it a warmer and kind of grittier feel. And I'm going to change the opacity down to 50%. And then I'm going to create a new layer. Now I want to create sort of this rosy glow, so I'm going to utilize the gradient tool. I'm going to go up towards the top, and I'm going to click on the different colors and select one that's sort of a goldeny yellow. And then I want it to fade into a darker sort of purpley red or burgundy tone. So I'm going to go ahead and pick kind of a darker or richer red tone for it to fade into. So this is going to create a really nice warm glow over the entire piece. I'm also working diagonally from the corner because that is where the light source is. So I want to complement the light source from the main image or my primary image. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to change that layer adjustment to hue, and this will make the layer translucent and complement that really warm glow effect. Change the opacity in the gradient layer to 65 so it's not quite as strong. And lastly, you can make any last minute tweaks or adjustments as you need to. And the last and final step is to make sure that you save both your Photoshop file and that you save your work as a JPEG. And that concludes this tutorial on how to create a creature composite. Thanks for watching.